to get the ears taped, I start taping the ears as soon as they are not really glued to their head. So I've made some little posts, so you don't want to wrap it tight. That's why we tend to leave them on for 3 days at a time. Some of them, their ears will come up at 6 weeks and you never do any taping. Cool? So everybody wants to know how to get the ears taped because they need help standing when they're teething. This puppy is 4 months old today, so they're almost there, but they're not quite there. I start taping the ears as soon as they are not really glued to their head and the ear canal starts opening, and that's in the 3-week-old window. And at that time, all I do is grab their little ear and I'll take a piece of tape and just run it around hold it like a taco, and then put that little piece of tape basically like that. So the puppy will run around for a while with the little tape on the ears like this. And then once I see that the ears start folding with that piece of tape on there, that's when I start putting a post in the middle so that that fold doesn't stay. If I didn't do that, then when they want to use their ears, she may use them partially. It may end up like if you see this boy in the crate there, that might be all you're going to get if you don't keep up with it. We want it to be more like the girl, where hers are almost there. So, a little progression. You got to stay on it. And this girl is even further behind, so good, better, and best, so to speak. So I've made some little posts from some tape. And it's a foam tape, but you could make a post out of any kind of a tape or a piece of foam and then wrap tape around it. And what I want to do to start with is make this tape sticky. So I'll wrap it backwards one time so that it's sticky on the inside, and then I just cut that. And how fat do you make it matters how big their ear is. So I want to make it big enough so that when I stick this post in there, it's going to flatten that ear out and it won't be able to fold. It can wrap around the ear, but it won't be able to fold back here. So that's how fat you want to make it, where it takes that much up. Then I've got paper tape, and I start way down on the base so that I cover up the very bottom. This little flap is very tender, so you don't want to wrap it tight because that will cut into this ear. So you wrap it, you make a fold of the tape to itself, and then you wrap that onto the ear on the back. Same with the front. You don't want to wrap it just right like that because that will cut the ear right here. So you make a little fold so that the tape tapes to itself and it won't cut into that ear, and then you wrap it around to the back to itself. So these little pieces of ear flap are protected by that tape being out. Okay, the same with the bottom. On the inside, the same thing. There's a little piece of tape stuck to itself so it doesn't cut into the ear. Will it rub it and maybe irritate it? Absolutely. Will it rub and irritate on the inside of their ear here and back here? Absolutely. That's why we tend to leave them on for 3 days at a time and take them off for around 2 or 3 days at a time. It varies depending on how irritated that was. So then this is still sticky. So I've got another piece of tape and I'm going to do the same thing so that most of the ear is going to be protected and supported. Stick it to itself and then just wrap that around. And what you don't want to catch yourself doing is doing this big squeeze, because what that does is it cuts the circulation off of the ear. Pushing it around is fine, but you don't want to take the ear and squeeze it like a wash rag, because you're squeezing all the blood out of the ear, and that's what's making the ear stand, is all the nutrition that you're giving the ear. So that's how I tape each ear. So we're going to do the other ear same way. Each dog is individual. Some of them, their ears will come up at 6 weeks and you never do any taping. But most of them, because you want a nice large ear in the breed, most of them require taping when they start teething. And you're pretty much done by 6 months old. You might still be one ear favoring, or maybe you're leaving them off for maybe a week at a time and you start seeing them fade and then come back to taping it. But usually by 6 months old, but as far out as 8 to 10 months old that you might see them weak. But as a general rule, by 6 months old, they're really where you want them to be. So I'm going to fold that and protect that flap. Same on this side. And bring that around to itself and stick it to itself. And it will start, they will scratch at it and you will see them start peeling this tape back. That's fine. When I first started at 3 weeks, they may shake their head a lot, but that's why I also started that early, because then they're used to having something on their ears and they're not. If you waited until they were 12 weeks old, they would just be incessant about it. So that's why you start early. Now, you don't want their ears just to have all this weight on them, because they may set too far down. You want them to set around here. So if you leave all this weight on them, you're going to stretch these muscles out and they'll never use them in the right way. You also don't want them set next to each other, because that doesn't look like a Xolo either. Mm-hmm. This is a Xolo. Mm. And if you have the weight, this is where her ears are, and that's not a Xolo either. Mm-hmm. That's like a Yoda. So there is a lot of practice, and if you do it wrong one day, doesn't mean that they're scarred forever. No, you just take it off. You're like, okay, it doesn't look good, and you just replace it. So it's just tape. It's not the end of the world. So that we get them set where we like them, we're going to use a bridge. And the bridge is just a silk tape. So sometimes I'll go to Lowe's and get pipe foam, and I will cut those to length. You can also use backer rod at Lowe's, real cheap, $3 to $5 for a pack of like 12 feet. And you can just cut little pieces, wrap them with tape so that it sticks to the ear on the inside, and then to the tape on the outside. Or you can use this foam tape. Then paper tape for hairless. If you use silk tape, it won't stick for long. If you use the clear transport tape, it usually irritates their skin, and you don't get a good fit. So paper tape is the best for them. And then for the bridge, I use silk tape, and that's because it's stronger. So I start on the back of one ear, make it just long enough, and just to the bottom third of the ear. Again, remember to stick it to itself to protect that inside flap of the ear that's under that tape. Bring it around, stick it to itself again for the same reason. So that's about the bottom third of their ear, just above their skull cap. The sticky side is this back side right now. And then I set their ears where I want them to be. I kind of look at them. And I'll stick it on there. That's a little too far. That's where I would like them to end up. So I stick the front to the other tape, make my flap again to protect the edge, bring it around the back, and this side was the sticky side, and stick that to itself, and then just finish this piece of tape however long you happen to tear it. Now, to make sure that they can't get this separated from itself, because sometimes they can. They are geniuses at stuff like that. I take another piece of it, and I just wrap it. Stick it to itself, wrap it around, stick it to itself, and that'll stop that tape from separating, and then they can peel all of that off. So, that's where I would like her ears to be placed in the end. I don't want them too far out, and I don't want them too far together. So that's where I'll tape them. And that'll help train these muscles up here and down here on where to hold the ears. You'll also, while they're taped, You always want to make sure and put some extra lotion and balm on the tips of these ears because they're going to be drier up here like this, and they've got this tape on there. But you make sure and not do any of that before you put the tape on, or your tape won't stick. So that's not going to help you out. So now that that's done, and we can take some of our balm, and you can use this, the ear, whatever, feeding the ears, and just rub some of that on this, and that'll keep those edges nice and moist. Because all of the litter mates, if you have more than one, are going to chew on this and try to help them get those off. They're going to run along the side of the wall, alongside of the fence, on the ground. They're going to flip over, and of course they're going to use their feet to be scratching and digging at them. So again, you want to leave them on for about 3 days. You don't really want to leave them on long term because you've got to check the circulation of the ear, and that's why we leave them on for 2 or 3 days. In that 2 or 3 days, I'm always looking and seeing, is there irritation? Does something look like it's bleeding? If there is, then I either will take a scissor and cut that pressure point that's making it bleed, or I'll just take it all off and start over. So that's clearly up to you how you wanted to do that. And then you let the ear rest. You, of course, balm and condition it for those 2 or 3 days, and then make sure not to do that at least 6 hours before you're going to start to tape them again so that it does stick. Cool?